Attention, please. Eastern Airlines Flight 19, now ready for departure.
Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're entering the vacation kingdom of the world.
There's enough land here to hold all the ideas and plans we could possibly imagine. We call it EPCOT. Will be our experimental prototype city of tomorrow.
Welcome to another episode of the Retro Disney World Podcast, taking you back to the vacation kingdom of the world, the way it was, and the way it is in your memories.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Retro Disney World Podcast, the monthly podcast of the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society. This is episode 44, Mickey's Birthdayland, where we'll be taking you back to Mickey's Birthdayland in 1988 and what it turned into just a few years after, and then about 5 or 6 years after that. I am your host, Todd McCartney, and sitting in with me as always tonight, and look, I'm going to go with How tonight first because he's looking eager to talk about this topic.
Oh my God, I cannot wait.
I can't wait either. I remember it. It's gonna be great. And Mickey's birthday's coming up, so
I know. Look at me. I'm all goose pimply waiting for that to happen.
And if you are listening to this on November 18th, which is the date we release this, you are listening to this podcast on Mickey's birthday. So pretty cool stuff.
That's the magic of radio right there.
That's right.
Podcasting, whatever this is.
And coming in from Ohio, Mr. JT Kuzier. How you doing tonight, JT?
Doing good, Todd. How are you?
Good. Are you pumped for Mickey's birthday too?
Oh yeah, always. I love Mickey. He's great.
You got your cake ordered?
Ice cream cake from Dairy Queen.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Carvel, like Fudgy the Whale,
No, I don't know.
Oh, you don't know? Brian from Philadelphia, he doesn't know what Fudgy the Whale is.
Oh, brother. Greetings and salutations from the city of brotherly love, where we love Fudgy the Whale and Cookie Puss and all of the Carvel cake characters.
Exactly. And don't forget, Cookie Puss and Fudgy the Whale can also be turned at 90 degrees to become Santa Claus.
So Santa Claus
what's the Irish one?
Cookie Opus. Cookie Opus.
That's right. Oh, we've gone into another East Coast food item here. Look up Carvel, folks. We're not going to go down that.
Amazing. It just doesn't cross a line.
No.
I mean, Brian's a short 4 hours away.
That's all right. JT, today we found out you didn't have VCRs until like the 90s out there. So
yeah.
That is not true. That is not true. I was stating the fact that VHS tapes and you went to those houses where the people had like the rows of bought movies. It was very rare. Everybody had the dubs from the cable,
Yeah.
That's what seemed to happen.
Yep. There you go. Well, before we go down another hole, why don't we just get right into our corrections and comments? So, guys, last month we talked about Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and on our game show episode, and how you made a statement here, and somebody wanted to write in and correct you. This is from Eric. He says, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was not the first TV show to offer $1 million grand prize. There was a show called Chance of a Lifetime. I don't remember this one, but hosted by Jim Lange, that offered a $1 million prize that aired in the 80s long before Millionaire, and someone won it in the first season.
That's awesome. I don't remember that show either, but I remember Jim Lang. He was quite the affable host.
Yep.
Yep.
So pretty cool.
Well, thanks for sending that. I had no idea. So
yep.
you know what? I love being right, but I love being wrong, so I can find out something new that I did not know.
That's right. And we take our corrections seriously here at the Retro Disney World Podcast. So another interesting one that we got in last month, we also talked about the giant speakerphone that was in the AT&T pavilion. And if you guys remember, we gave a call, and it turned out to be the number now routes to somebody in the Disney Vacation Club, a manager there. And the best part is we heard from them, and this topic of the giant phone and what his number used to be came up during one of their meetings. So they sent us another picture.
Oh, it did? I didn't know the meeting.
Yes, so he says, regarding the phone we talked about in today's meeting, here's a picture of another member emailed me earlier this year of the AT&T phone that used to be at EPCOT many years ago. My understanding is that people could call it anywhere, and then talk on this giant speakerphone. The phone number listed on the phone used to be another person, and it is now mine. See the attached picture. So someone out there at the Disney Vacation Club in Florida is listening to our podcast. We want to give a shout out to everybody there. Thanks for sharing the additional photos. I think that's awesome, and that's great. And if you ever do find the big phone, sadly we report it is not in his office. Did you see that?
Did he send a picture of his current phone? Was it normal?
Oh, I don't know. That would be pretty funny. So, all right. And I think the last item of the month, we've got Hal. You've got a sub story about the 20K. You met up with a former attraction vehicle.
When we did our 20K episode, I had an inkling that there were some of the subs still around. I had heard rumors that there were some at Castaway Cay. So I actually went on a Disney cruise, my very first one, and went to Castaway Cay, and our whole family went snorkeling. And sure enough, there is one of the 20K subs still there in about like 10, 15 feet of water. It does not have the pronounced bridge with the spiky part on it and the big ball windows.
That was for ramming ships, right? For
yes,
ripping
exactly.
them apart. Yeah.
Right. So those parts were removed. So when you see photos online, it's a little confusing because that was one of the most visually distinct parts of the ships, and that's gone. The little ramming ship thing is actually in about 10 or 15 feet away from the rest of the sub. So they saved that part and put it down as just kind of like debris. But the large section is gone. But you can swim right up to it. You can swim up to the holes where the pilot sat and see his little seat. You can see the holes where you got in the front and into the back, and the tail is still there.
Wow.
And then a couple of in the back, the place where they would like tie on the ropes in order to hold it in place, and the portholes on one side. Now some of the portholes are covered, and then all the rest of these openings have like wire mesh across them, so you can't get in it. Mm-hmm. But it was really cool to go down there and actually see one of them. So
Howard, 10 to 15 feet of water. How many leagues under the sea is that?
Well, there's one of the great things. Leagues isn't a unit of depth. It is a unit of distance.
Right.
So
I just did the conversion if you're interested, though, for distance, though.
Here we go.
All right, here we go.
All right, right. 15 feet is equal to 0.000822 nautical leagues.
So how I want you to write a memoir called .0000826 leagues under the sea.
How long could you stay under there? Did you have do you have a good swimmer?
How long can you hold your breath?
Yeah, is that
I probably stayed under for like a minute to a minute and a half. I'm not bad. Now, when you get deep, it's a little tougher. So I managed to swim like the length. I started about maybe a quarter of the way down the one side and swam the length of the portals. And then I think I came up for breath and then went down and managed to swim up into the large hole. And I had my GoPro with me, so I was able to get a lot of nice video of it.
Oh, cool.
If you're a Jedi, you can apparently hide under there for a while and hold your breath until the droid army passes. So
that's right. Just put one of those funky things in your mouth. You'll be fine.
that little tube.
If I could get one of those James Bond.
Yeah. Now, was there
little breathing things?
Were there any diesel fumes emanating from?
No. There were a lot of fish around it, though. So the fish seemed to enjoy it very much.
Well, no mermaids either, right?
No mermaids.
Giant squid.
No. But how could hear slight calls to Mr. Baxter? On the
echoing through time and space.
Exactly. On the what was it? The sea phone, ocean phone. What was it called?
Oh, the hydrophone.
Hydrophone. Yes.
I wonder who's got that number now.
We'll give it a ring next month. Oh, all right.
Somebody at Parks and Resorts.
That's right. All right. Well, thank you for everybody for those corrections and additional add-ins. But it's time to get over to JT, run out to the listener mailbag on these cool fall crisp evenings. What do you got coming to us this month on the listener mailbag?
All right. Well, good selection of mail this month for sure. We have, first off, from Joe Barlow. Joe said, "Good afternoon, guys. I have a bunch of coffee cups my mom appropriated from Walt Disney World restaurants back in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, it's a relocation program, really what it is. You know,
I was thinking stole, but
no,
labeled,
it's
no.
it's archive for archival purposes.
Joe's mom is the reason it costs $25 to park now down there.
Yeah, thanks, Joe's mom.
That's why they went to generic coffee
Joe's
cups.
mama.
Yeah. So the cups are all made by the same company, and they have different numbers on the bottom. Do you know if Disney has them numbered to keep track of them? Thank you, Joe.
Yes, and Dick Nunes is on his way to your house now to pick them up. Come here, punk.
So I did a little research into this because I have one of those coffee cups myself, and I was curious, like, what were the numbers? Are they like ordering numbers, so that way if if the contemporary waitress drops a tray of them and breaks them, do they pick it up and go like, we need another batch of 475s? These were made by the Mayer China Company, and they actually made restaurantware for a ton of different restaurants and hotels. So I started looking at the bottom of them, and I noticed that all of the things that they made, starting about in the 1970s, were all numbered. And what it finally occurred to me is that if you pick up your coffee cup or your 12-inch plate or your serving bowl or whatever you have from them and look on the bottom, there's going to be a 3-digit number that's, and possibly 4 digits, but I haven't seen it yet. That is the date of manufacturer. So if you have number 378 on the bottom, it was made in March of 1978. And it's kind of interesting because now you can actually look online on eBay, or if you run across these at flea market, and you can actually tell what year these are from precisely. And I think they used them from the early 70s all the way up into like 81, 82, because I saw some 82s on some things that I looked at online. So that's
cool.
the answer. And these are for those of you that may stumble across these, since we're on audio, I will describe them for you.
Yeah.
They are...
He's holding one up now.
They are sort of like an off-white color, but you can tell because they typically have like a yellow gold band that runs around them, and then it's got the old Walt Disney World D with the Mickey head in the middle. So they're very distinctive.
And they have that thicker porcelain, almost like those thicker, not super thick, but kind of like diners or
durability.
Breakfast places.
Yeah, they're durable.
Durability.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if there was a coffee shop run by Disney in the 70s, that's the China that would be in there.
And it's, from what we know, they were used at many restaurants in the resort hotels. It was, and possibly within Disney World itself too. So before they went to custom plates and cups for all the different locations, they basically had one that they used everywhere.
All right, thanks, Joe. Appreciate that, and thanks for the info. How? This one's from Mike. Mike says he worked in 1-hour film developing and photograph processing for many years and has always been fascinated with how large tourist destinations handle the influx of film that needed to be developed and processed. Did the Camera Center at EPCOT offer 1-hour film developing and photo processing? Any information you can provide on film development at Walt Disney World would be great. Thanks so much for the podcast.
And I answered Mike, and I'll tell everybody what the answer was. Yes, they offered processing, but not 1-hour processing. They offered throughout the resorts and parks next day processing. So you could drop it off, and then the next day you could either pick it up or they would deliver it to your resort hotel room. And that service survived all the way until the end of 2010. At that point, it was only in the park at the Camera Center, but prior to that, they actually used to offer that service at the resorts too. And then as people moved to digital cameras, it moved on, and it kind of right when Kodak ended its sponsorship of Imagination, and because they were going bankrupt, and because people weren't taking pictures with film anymore. It was kind of a natural marriage. But yeah, it ended at the last day of December 2010. And there were various reports online at the beginning of 2011 that the parks are no longer offering film development. So, but for the longest time, they had these cool custom envelopes. I think Todd has one of them in his ephemera.
I do.
We've got a few of them up on our website to look at. But they had these Mickey sitting in a photo window to take your order.
Next up, we had a caller to our retro line. This is a voicemail from Jared, so let's take a listen to see what Jared had to say.
Hi guys, this is Jared from Clearwater, Florida. Big fan of the show since your first episode, and I have a story that may interest your listeners after your last show on game shows at the MGM studios. Most of you may remember a few years back, the studios would host what they called Star Wars Weekends, which essentially was a series of Star Wars conventions held at the park with various actors from the Star Wars films, events, character meetups, and during this time, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Play It was switched over to a Star Wars edition, where only Star Wars questions would be asked. Both in-universe questions like what species is Chewbacca to like real-world production questions like who directed The Empire Strikes Back. When I would visit Star Wars Weekends, I would always make it a point to attend the Millionaire shows. And in 2005, I was actually selected to participate. I made it down to the hot seat, which is what they call the place where the contestant sets and plays the game. And I actually made it up to the 500,000 point question. But I missed the question and was knocked out. The question being, who was the clue horn player in the Modal Nodes? The Modal Nodes were the Cantina band from the original Star Wars film. And I missed that question. But I returned in 2006, and I knew it was going to be my last chance to see the show because they were going to be closing it later that year for Toy Story Mania. So I went in there with my friends Mike and Matt, and we played along with the fastest finger, and the contestant who got in the hot seat first was a young kid, and he got knocked out of the game pretty early. And when they tabulated the fastest finger answers from the audience, I was the next in line. So for the second time in a year, I went down to the hot seat. This time was really cool, though, because Warwick Davis from the Star Wars films, amongst many other things, was sitting down next to the hot seat with the show host. And so it was cool to meet him and have him there while I was playing the game. And I shot through the questions pretty quickly. I used one 50-50 lifeline, but that was the only one I used. And I came up to the million point question, and as soon as he asked the question, I knew what the answer was. The question being, what species of alien was initially designed for Episode 1 but not used until Episode 2? And Warwick Davis actually mentioned one of the wrong answers, trying to be helpful. And I remember saying, well, Warwick, unfortunately, that's not the answer. The answer is Geonosians. And boom, the confetti flies, the balloons fall from the ceiling, and the million point question was answered, and I won the cruise. It really was an amazing cruise. We had such a good time. Whenever I would have interactions with any cast members, it must have been in my file that I won the cruise on the Millionaire show, and they would always take a moment to congratulate me on my win, which made me feel pretty special. My wife and I also met a couple on this cruise, which we're still friends with 12 years later, so it's the gift that keeps giving. But when I heard your show on all the old game shows at the studios, it all came flooding back, and I felt compelled to share my story. So I appreciate your time. You guys have my favorite podcast, and please keep doing what you're doing. And thank you so much.
So yeah, we did that episode about the game shows and how it gave us a lot of insight in that. So Jared, thanks for that. We appreciate the extra info, and that was our last full episode.
Yeah,
we've had
last
quite
one.
A few in between. So but yeah, roll back to that if you haven't caught
Yeah,
that
and
one.
Jared has given us a bunch of prizes from Who Wants a Millionaire that wants to be that we'll put in the prize pot next month for our big giveaway.
Oh, a sneak peek right there. Look at that. So.
All right, so last one here. We did have a kind of major announcement last episode, and we sort of got some real nice letters and notes about it. So this one says, "Hi, Retro WDW crew, and now LBVHS crew." He said, "Just wanted to send my congrats to you all. Lots of hard work is paying off, and I believe you are on the best path to historically preserving as much of Disney World's history as possible, even the stuff Disney wants us all to forget. I've been listening to the podcast since the first episode was he was president at the EPCOT 35 event. He has many of our t-shirts, and he continues to plan to support in any way that he can. Please keep doing what you're doing. It is great." And he offers up some support, knowing about nonprofits and that sort of thing, which is, kind of what we got into with this, and it's new to us, and it's cool to get the insight from people. So, says, "Thanks for all your effort. This is amazing. He's very happy for all of us." That is from Gary Sullivan. So thanks, Gary, for the kind words, and also to everybody else that dropped us a note about the society. Appreciate that.
We got so many wonderful emails in and tweets and congratulatory remarks, and we just want to say thank you to everybody who sent us in those, and also to all the people who have also requested ways that they can donate their time to help us out. We already had some people send us information on transcribing and a lot of different things. So terrific to see everybody's enthusiasm out there, and we're really looking forward to where we're going in the future with this.
The excitement was contagious. I mean, I did not expect that reaction. We knew what we were doing was kind of exciting from our standpoint, but there were a lot of listeners that wrote us. I mean, we got dozens of emails and tweets and stuff of just people like, "Oh my God, this is great, what you're doing." So I echo that. It was, they were more excited than JT.
I was excited, and I know people had VCRs around here in the 80s.
And speaking of VCRs, we should remind people that LB VHS is not the Lake Buena Video Home System, right? It is the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society. But how? That's a T-shirt idea. I'm seeing something about LB VHS as a T160 tape, maybe a T120.
All right, we'll get on that.
All right, JT, I think it's time to close up the mailbag. Why don't you tell them where they can find us, and also where they can leave us a message.
If you would like to drop us a line, send us an email, podcast@retrowdw.com. You can tweet at us, like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, anywhere like that, and we get your messages all over the place. So get in touch with us if you have something to say, for sure.
Yep, and you can also leave us a message at 978-71-RETRO, and maybe you'll hear yourself on the podcast. All right, so as we mentioned earlier, we're releasing this podcast on Mickey's birthday, November 18th. And yesterday, we were over at the Contemporary Resort doing our Lake and Lagoon Tour Discovery Edition. Now, we'll have a follow-on episode and some more information on how that went in the future. But the best part is you, as a listener, can obtain a copy of the special gift that we gave out at the event, and we have two different kinds. So, Brian, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about what this is and how it came about?
Well, some would call it a work of art. Some would call it a masterpiece. But what it is a custom, hand-drawn map, full-color illustrated map, poster-sized, of the vacation kingdom of the world, the way it was and the way it is in your memory. And so if I've captured this correctly, Todd, what it is a recreation hand-drawn by our artist, Jason, that is based on a map that existed in the 1970s, right?
Yeah, there were actually two versions of it. One was in the back of a complete edition of Walt Disney World, and then one also appeared. It was also given out almost like a pamphlet with a key down the right-hand side of what was on it. So there are two different versions, slightly different, but 75, 76.
Yeah, so Jason took that as a general layout, and crafted a map based on all of our episodes of the Retro WDW podcast. And there's wonderful dozens and dozens of little widgets in there and weenies to attract people's attention, inside jokes and things, all of which are decipherable, in addition to capturing what the park and the general layout of the place was back then.
Yep. As well as some things that never came to be. We decided to add on some of the hotels that were never built. You'll notice Thunder Mesa on the map as well, and a couple of things that had very, very short lives, such as the original tram or some other attractions that are no longer there. So here's the really cool thing about it. As Brian pointed out in this poster, and it's 24 by 36 inches, so it's pretty sizable. It's kind of like Where's Waldo in a way. There's 71 hidden items, things that we've talked about, things that aren't there anymore or specific that you can go and find. And we're going to talk a little bit in about a second how you can get a copy of the poster to hang in your own home. But the neat thing is what we're going to do from now to January 15th, 2019, everybody who has a copy or orders a copy will have a chance to look at their map and try to find all 71 hidden items. And what we're going to do is those that send in their list, contest at retrowdw.com, we're going to take all those entries that we get, see who has the most correct entries, and we're going to give them a special limited edition version of the map with a silver seal and numbered and signed by all of us here at the Retro WDW podcast, including Jason. So you get numbered, a low number, you get the seal, you get the poster, you get all of our signatures, and so you'll get an additional copy. So how can you get a copy of this? Well, as you may have heard in our previous episode, we're now working under the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society, which is a nonprofit that we formed to bring this podcast to you. And right on the Retro WDW page, there is a donate. And you can click a donation there, and for a $25 donation, you will receive a copy of this poster as a gift sent to you. And there's also some other levels in there that have a different version of the poster that has some of the seals and signatures as well on it. But those are the ones that were given out on the tour. So it's a very limited piece. We only made a certain amount of them, and we're hoping that a lot of you out there will find it intriguing and will love to sit down and kind of play Where's Waldo with it. And I mean, how JT Brian, there are so many cool things hidden in this. Every time I go by, we just got them in today actually, and I got one hanging on my wall, and I started looking at it, and it's just fantastic, the detail that Jason put in on it, and all the little tiny things that you're going to be searching for hours.
Yeah, there's a couple things, because we lived through this from its first conception to his first couple sketches, and we didn't even know we were going to do this. And Todd kind of said, look, can you start and see what you can do? And he did one small section, and all four of us were like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then we lived through each area being, pencil drawn first in sketch form and then colored in and then adding stuff to it. And it was a joint effort because we would all sit there and say, oh, you know what we should put there? We should put this, or we should add that. And so it was just really, really neat to see it come. But the finished product, this is it's anybody's going to be happy to frame this and hang it in their home. Yep. And the poster size frames are cheap. You can get them at Walmart. You can get them at Target. Yep. It's a standard poster size. But like a couple of the other Disney type things I have, that like David Coolidge's artwork that hangs in my living room, it doesn't scream Disney World unless you go up and inspect it. It looks appropriate to be hanging on the wall, but gorgeous colors. It's a great gift for any Disney fan.
I just, from the very beginning, like Brian said, it's like I was blown away as we progressed through this, and I talked about this in other podcasts. I'm kind of a tough audience when it comes to the visual arts, and I'm just knocked out by what Jason was able to do here, how many things he was able to show. Like, it is, like I said, it's just filled with like little nooks and crannies and details, and we're all on there in different places, and lots of the celebrities that we talked about are just weird little instances that we've discussed on the show. It's all there. If you've listened to our shows religiously, and who hasn't, because you should, You'll absolutely recognize all the stuff that's on there.
And there's a lot in there that you may not even pick up on. There are so many small, little, tiny details that, I'm going to send you in here. I have a screen capture. I'm going to send it to you guys here so you know what I'm talking about here. This one, in particular, is so far out there that, you may not even remember us talking about it. And they're looking at it, studying, going, what is it? Well, if you'd like to get your very own copy, head over to retrowdw.com. You can click the donate button, or you also can do it from the lbvhistory.org. There's a link as well there. And keep in mind, your entire donation is tax deductible. All the instructions will be in your receipt as well as on the page. So if you have any questions, feel free to email us as well. So thank you very much for supporting us. Don't forget to get your entries in for the contest, and we will publish an article about this. And then at the very end, when we've announced a winner, we will release a companion guide that will reveal all secrets in the map. All right, guys, I think it's time for this month's Audio Rewind. And let me read you a couple of the responses before we reveal. So this month's Rewind is something that is burned into my subconscious nightmares.
That's right.
Hearing the clip made me feel a very odd mix of horror and nostalgia. It gives me...
Are they talking about listening to the podcast or the Audio Rewind?
It's just the audio. It will give me scary dreams about clowns on stilts. It's the ultimate nightmare fuel. So let's take a listen to last month's Audio Rewind before we reveal.
I see the face of a witch. I see a lion jumping through a hoop. I see a beautiful fish flying. I see the face of a funny clown.
All right, and as one of our listeners said, if you guessed the acid trip known as Magic Journeys, you are correct. So that was the scene where the children are lying in a field staring up at clouds, and that then materialized into a circus with giant clowns on stilts and some 3D effects that, let's just put it off to another episode, right, guys? We'll talk about it another time. So
best film ever made.
That's right. So we do have a winner, Ben West. So congratulations to Ben. You win the Universe of Energy comic book. Yeah, congratulations there. And so before we get to this month's Audio Rewind, we need a prize. And Brian is jumping up and down saying, ooh, pick me. He's got a prize. So Brian, what do you got for us?
I do. And my prize this month is #OnBrand. Because I have the 1992 Burger King 20th anniversary Walt Disney World calendar.
Ooh.
And the reason this is significant is because by the time you answer this and we get it in the mail to you, you'll get it probably late December, early January 2019. And you only have to sit on it for a few short months because the 1992 calendar will be identical to 2020. So the following January, you can hang that guy right on up, and it'll track the days just like it did in 1992. But
That's perfect.
It's a promotional calendar they put out at Burger King to promote the 20th anniversary of Walt Disney World. It has some coupons, which you can't use to get a Whopper or a Whaler or a Whopper Jr. anymore. The Whaler was what they used to call the fish sandwich, just so you know that.
Oh, Whaler.
That's right. Yeah.
But each month has a cool set of pictures. Including the 1 month, and I don't remember which one it is, that has pictures of the tikis, the large tikis that used to surround the pool at the Polynesian,
Nice.
which I remember Hal particularly enjoyed the first time I ever tweeted that calendar photo. So yeah. So it's a very, very cool keepsake, and I came across it at a flea market. I already own one; it's part of my collection. And the gentleman who had it in a pile said, "Boy, you were really excited. You can just have it." And I said, I'm going to share this with someone who will appreciate it as much as I do. So
there we go. Cool.
It is this month's prize pot, thanks to the kindly gentleman at Jake's Flea Market in Bartow, Pennsylvania.
So Brian's calendar can be yours if you know the answer to this Audio Rewind. All right, if you think you know the answer to this month's Audio Rewind, send your guesses to contest@retrowdw.com. All entries must be received by December 8th, 2018. We'll pick one winner out of all correct answers to win this month's prize. And with that said, we also, at the end of this year, which is just next month, we'll be doing a special live telephone connection down to a on-the-beat reporter in EPCOT Center that will help us pick the random number to win this year's half prize pot. So, JT, what's in there, or what are we adding in?
All right, we have July, a sewing kit from Disney World. August was the official Disney World Disneyland vinyl album, new, sealed in the package. September is the D23 Gold Member Kit. That does feature
huge.
the Mickey's birthday stuff that everybody's seen.
Yep. I am adding in a selection of Disney news from the early 90s, which will be really cool. It has I think everything is done in some sort of purple, pink, or teal, so it goes right along with the Wonders of Life motif. But so yeah, if you get your answers in, all entries in the podcast from this half year, whether they're correct or not, will be entered in a drawing in our December podcast, which is just next month, to win everything in the prize pot. All right, guys, well, it's time for this month's main topic, and as we said, it's wishing Mickey a very happy birthday today on November 18th. He has turned 90 years old, and hard to believe that 30 years ago, we were celebrating his 60th birthday, and there were a lot of special things going on at that time. Hal's doing numbers.
I'm trying to do the math, but you're right, it is 30 minus 60.
Isn't that, it's making you feel old, isn't it?
He looks better than I do, and he's like way older than me.
Yeah, it's quite interesting how
he's gotten better with age. He looked a lot freakier in the early days.
Well, in the 90s too, he had a lot of baggy pants and a lot of pink and teal too. That didn't help.
Joe Cool version
That's right,
of Mickey.
Exactly. So back in 1988, there was a lot about Mickey's 60th. There were some special events around the world. There was a television special. And do you guys remember this? This was sold. I got this when I went to Mickey's Birthdayland. Do you guys remember this magazine called Mickey is 60?
I had one of those, yeah.
You had one. Now, check this out, guys. In the middle of it is I guess you could call it a faux cell. You know, it's like a lithograph.
Sorcerer Mickey, yeah.
Exactly. So you would cut out the background, and you had the cell in there. So it was printed. But still pretty cool. And there are a lot of other things. Brian, there was the Party Mickey hot air balloon. We've talked about some of the hot air balloons that they've done, but there was a Party Mickey one. He was on Time magazine and Life magazine and all those other things. But they decided to do something different because in 1984 there was a Donald party in the Magic Kingdom, and he pretty much got a parade, and that was the end of it. And that was it. But nobody was ever guaranteed a time or a place to see Mickey, and with his birthday coming up, there was kind of an idea, and how you're going to take us through the background of Mickey's Birthdayland and how that one little spark there, so to speak, turned into some of the things that we saw, and then I'll take you through everything that land was and what it became over the years.
I will. And Todd, since you have that magazine, I asked you this earlier when you pulled it out. There is a hidden gem in that magazine that somebody got in huge trouble for. So on the bottom of every page in this Mickey is 60 magazine, next to the page number, it says Mickey is 60, which is a thing that you would do in magazine design. I did some magazines, and we did that. We put the name of the publication there. On one of the pages, someone changed it to say Mickey is sexy.
No.
Yes.
All right. Well, while you're doing the intro,
and it got through.
I'm going to
flip through publication, and it got to print. So I was trying to remember if it ended up on page 60 or what page it ended up on. But so we're in great debt to Charlie Ridgway here, because he actually laid out the story of how we got Birthdayland in his book Spinning Disney's World, which is phenomenal, because I always ignored this. Oh, I think Todd's got the page.
I found it. It is page 35, and it certainly does say Mickey is sexy, and it is opposite Annette Funicello.
Coincidence?
So,
maybe not.
Let's see it. Hold it up. I want to see this.
You want to see that?
Not Annette, where the Mickey is sexy part.
Yeah, he wants to see that. That's good. I see. Can we get the person responsible for that for a panel discussion?
That would be,
that would be great.
That would be perfect.
Yep.
No, it's funny enough. It's one of those things when I found out about it, I'm like, I would have completely have done that. Supposedly the person who did it lost their job and all that, but who knows? Who knows the story about it?
Yeah. It's almost like James May with his auto publication, where every letter of the first paragraph actually wound up spelling something out that got him in trouble too. So, well, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that was breaking news at page 35. So go ahead.
So the story is that back in 1986, so a couple of years before Mickey's birthday, the entertainment division began planning a parade to celebrate Mickey's 60th birthday, just like they did for Donald. But marketing wanted something bigger to promote. It's like the parade, is okay, but we'd like to blow it out more than that. So as we have discussed previously on the podcast, they had been doing some multi-city tours in the 1980s where they would go to, shopping malls and things, and they'd have huge inflatables, and they'd set up tents and do stage shows and stuff like that. So the thought was, well, what if we could take that same kind of idea and we'll take the parking lot between Main Street and Tomorrowland and kind of, not have people park there for a while, but set up a tent with a live show and a big 30-foot inflatable Mickey to act sort of as like an icon, and maybe get like a playground or something for the little kids to do, because I think there was a feeling like there wasn't a lot for little kids to do at the time. And let's, make a little mini thing that we can really do some promotion against instead of just the parade. So they got merchandising character artists Russell Schroeder and Don Ducky Williams to join the group, and they were recruited into this marketing team called the Matadors. And those guys came up with the idea of Mickey's house, kind of this 1920s style bungalow. And Schroeder had actually done a drawing of Mickey's house for a fast food container. I don't know if it was a McDonald's or Burger King previously, and they were like, oh, let's just use that. That could be Mickey's house. Let's expand on that idea.
So that means there's still hope for the Filet-O-Fish foam container house, is what you're saying, right?
It could happen.
It can happen. Oh, man.
So they packaged up this idea, and the VP of marketing, Tom Elrod, took this concept to Michael Eisner. Eisner liked it. He passed it on to WDI, and they said, look, we're in the middle of doing Disney MGM Studios. We don't have time to do this. So put the brakes on this for 1988. Let's delay the project, and we'll integrate it into Disney MGM as we have a chance.
In 2020 or 2019 is what we'll do,
just
right?
completely miss Mickey's birthday. And the marketing team was disappointed because they were really trying to do something for Mickey's birthday, but they didn't give up. And they felt like they still needed that hook for a promotional idea, because Charlie Ridgway loved big promotions. So they decided, well, okay, if we can't get them to do it, let's just do it ourselves and see what we can do. So they took that concept and just added on to it. And they brought in people from the maintenance division who were planners to see if they could maybe join the brainstorming sessions and come up with some stuff to augment it. So ultimately, this team, not Walt Disney Imagineering, but a team of people in marketing and in the engineering services division, came up with the idea to take over a plot of land behind 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And this area was empty because originally we've got some old plans where this was designated as Holiday Land, which probably would have been like a corporate picnic area. So it was just sitting there, kind of out of nowhere. They said, let's take over that spot. We'll decorate the steam train. We'll add a new station to service the area, so that way the steam train can actually drop people off back here, because it's kind of inaccessible and out of the way. And incidentally, that was the exact location that was for a proposed train station, like way back in 68 or 69. So it's like it finally came true. And they decided, we can save money. Instead of actually building permanent buildings, we'll just go get some of these plastic roof tent buildings that they had found. And they could save a lot of money by putting those up instead of actually doing real construction. It could go up fast. They're probably partially prefabricated, and they could get it going really quick. So Tom Elrod took this bigger concept to Michael Eisner in February of 1988. 9 months before Mickey's birthday,
Gonna have to hurry up,
in
kids.
November. So Eisner said, okay, I'll give you a budget of $12 million for the project, but it needs to be open by May, so that way this can have a positive effect on summer attendance. So,
Wow.
Yeah, you don't have much time.
So they had basically 3 months to go from nothing to open. And they called up the people in the maintenance division and they said, it'll be close, but yeah, well, we can do it. So the very next day, they started clearing land behind 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Wow.
So done. So Schroeder and Williams went to work designing all of the elements necessary for the land. The interior and exterior of Mickey's house, the neighborhood, the decorations that were seen from the train, the little building facades that covered up the cement walls of the tent buildings, and even these little photo opportunities. If you remember, like in some of the waiting areas, like they had these fake covers of comic books and you could step into them and have your picture taken, kind of like the old roadside attraction type thing. Schroeder recalled in an interview that there were times in project meetings when someone might ask what such and such a thing would look like, and if Don or I made a quick sketch simply to give them an idea, they would snatch it up and turn it over to the staff shops for manufacturing immediately. So as quickly as they could design things, and again, this is not WDI. This is merchandising design artists and people that did stuff for t-shirts and brochures and things, and they handed it off to people in the staff shops at central shops, and they built all of this.
Here's some plywood, a jigsaw, and some paint. Go to town, kids.
So the thought is we know that they went to an outside contractor to build the train station, and then they just figured out how to decorate it. Basically, what could we put on the structure to make it look good? They went to the outside contractor to get the tents and that stuff to put up, but like mostly everything you saw was literally people just like getting stuff and putting it in place, and they'd draw something up, and the next thing you know, it'd be plywood's cut out and it's painted and it's done.
That's crazy.
So the creative aspect of it, because they weren't using WDI, there was a guy who was billed as the puppet man at EPCOT who would walk around and do this like Punch and Judy show by himself. He'd basically wear like a table over his face and hold up the characters and like puppeteer them. His name was Steve Hansen. He got famous before EPCOT for doing these shows in San Francisco and New York. So he was named the writer and director of the land, and he supervised all the show elements. He, in turn, hired a guy named Ron Schneider. Do you remember who he is?
Yes.
So he hired the Dreamfinder to write and perform the train narration. So when you rode the train around the track, and
I am the Dreamfinder train.
It was Ron who wrote that and performed that train station narration. And then Steve Scorgia, the principal music director of Walt Disney World Entertainment, wrote the music for the land's new songs and the super catchy Mickey's Birthdayland Express song. So it was a very homegrown enterprise.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So,
that is so cool.
Just like, and if you've ever wondered why it looks so cheap and quickly made, it's because it was cheap and quickly made. But
you know, it's certain aspects that we're going to talk about in a minute looked pretty good. You know, we'll talk about the cutouts and things, but there was some stuff that was still done pretty well given the short period.
Yeah, and they came up with. We may get to this when we get to Mickey, but they came up with some pretty innovative ideas for the time. Like up until this point, Mickey was a walk around character. As right. You said in the press releases, they always tried to stress that, like, you know, due to guest demand, it's like guests never know where they could meet Mickey and get autographs. So we needed to create a centralized place where they could do that. I don't know if there was really guest demand. That might have just been something that they said. But, I mean, this was the first time that you basically parked a character in one location and had people come to the character rather than have them just walk around, naturally organically out in the park. And they actually came up with the idea for the first time to have 3 rooms with Mickey in it simultaneously. So that way, the length of time waiting to meet Mickey would be shorter, because they would send you into one of the 3 rooms instead of just having like one Mickey. You could have 3 at the same time. So
Amazing what they do today with Belle, same thing, and meeting Mickey, same thing. So what are ideas never die? So they just come around again.
Some real breakthroughs there. There were a couple of special guests that came. On June 8th, Nancy Reagan visited Mickey's Birthdayland while it was still under construction. She did a photo op and she taped a segment for the 4th of July TV special.
For you kids out there, she was the First Lady of the United States at the time.
That's true. She was married to Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan? The actor? Then who's vice president? Jerry Lewis?
So she cut Mickey's birthday cake, and also she laid her handprints in the cement for use at Disney MGM Studios while she was there.
Ah, look at that. While you're there, might as well get it done.
Yeah,
right?
It's funny. They actually did that with almost every celebrity that came the year before, which very, very wisely.
We need some handprints.
Yeah, exactly. There are online articles that talk about Cindy Williams doing the ribbon cutting, but on the 4th of July spectacular, they do show Cindy Williams, out enjoying the area. And I've seen, saw some stuff online, people mentioned meeting her at the opening. But actually it was Carol Burnett with Michael Eisner and Roy O. Disney that actually pulled the little steam whistle thing that released the balloons and the streamers and the pigeons and the whatnot to officially open Mickey's Birthdayland. So
look at that.
It opened on June 18th, 1988. So they did not quite make their May date, but not so again.
At least it was ahead of his birthday, not after, right?
Yeah, for the amount of time. If you were to tell somebody today that we're going to open up a new land in the Magic Kingdom in 3 months, they would never do it.
Right. And an awesome point there, Hal, because it was and still is the only new land that was ever added to the Magic Kingdom. So it is now Storybook Circus. All right, so what I want to do with you guys is before we enter the Magic Kingdom, I want to put on your thinking caps here. Let's take a little journey into imagination with Ron Schneider here. You're boarding the monorail at the Polynesian Resort, and you're going around a relatively new Grand Floridian, sparkly and white, and you hear this over the monorail.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Buena. I'm doing a very special surprise birthday party for Mickey. Remember, it's a surprise. See you at the party.
The monorail's got the audio overlay to welcome you and to entice you to come through to Mickey's Birthdayland. And it didn't end there. This was a new land. It is how you pointed out. If you didn't have the train, you probably wouldn't have seen it, or you probably wouldn't have known how to get there. So the idea that Mickey, as well as when you start to enter the park, put into your head was that you should take the train to get there. And they called it the Mickey's Birthdayland Express. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think the maps even changed from the Walt Disney World Railroad to Birthdayland Express, I think, on the guidebooks.
I'll have to take a quick look and see.
Yeah.
I certainly remember the decorations all around the train station.
Yeah. Oh, they were everywhere. So the idea of
Mickey knows how to park.
That's right. And that's what it was. That's what it was, Brian. Minnie was throwing a special surprise birthday party. She wanted you to take the train to get there. And, and not only, they also would give you ideas about this in your room, too. And, Minnie's narration was just part of it. But it was all to entice you to come over there. So,
wow, that's, talk about great, because that totally ties into the show. They really sold that concept, didn't they?
Well, and that's where they wanted you to go to. Well, as we'll talk about, there wasn't much in the land. They wanted you to go to the show. So let's imagine ourselves, we're seeing the Birthdayland Express train. There's festive decorations and banners and all sorts of stuff. Even on the train, it's the front end of the train said Mickey's Birthdayland Express. And there were all new narrations and banners and all sorts of stuff. And along the way, how you pointed out how some things were very cardboard cutout-like, so to speak, you would see different characters in two-dimensional artwork, such as Goofy by a broken-down car, or the Mad Hatter's Tea Party was abandoned in the woods with a sign that said, gone to Mickey's party. And these were in some of the clearings. How they didn't put them over any of the other audio animatronics. A lot of that stuff was still there, right? They just kind of took some other clearings and kind of cut the brush down and set these things up.
And in fact, it's like the Goofy one that you mentioned, occasionally they would have like a live Goofy out there. Like next to the car. But when he wasn't on, when he was off stage, and they had the cardboard cut out in his place.
I remember riding the train in the evening too, and it was like somebody went to Lowe's, and picked up like a lawn light with the stake on it and just like plopped it in front and ran an extension cord to keep it lit. It was really, really basic.
No, I have a Magic Kingdom guidebook here, and it's still listed as Walt Disney World Railroad.
It is okay.
I have, yeah.
Okay, but featuring the Mickey's Birthday-Land Express.
Oh, actually, mine is from the Starland era, so I guess we'll have to.
Oh, okay. We'll do a little more digging.
Go back and find out. Yeah.
So why don't we listen to an earworm here? Do you guys remember this song from the Mickey's Birthday-Land Express? Because if you didn't, here it comes. So as you're starting to get close to Mickey's Birthday-Land, they start to announce that you are coming into Duckburg. We're going to talk a little bit more about Duckburg later on, but in Duckburg, it's the feather pillow capital of the world, and things have been good for them there because down is up.
Wow.
Oh, man. So
Next up, Mickey's Birthday-Land. That's where Mickey Mouse lives. Minnie's got the party all set up out back. Just go on through the house. Now, please remain.
as you're on the train, that goes on for a little bit, and now they're saying, see that house over there? That's where Mickey Mouse lives. So Minnie's got the party. Go on through the house. So they've enticed you in your hotel room, on the monorail, the train, and now even on the train they're saying, go into his house. So let's talk a little bit about Mickey's house. And guys, I have this here. This is a Walt Disney World News Summer Edition. No, let's see if there's a date on here. 88, so we're in the right thing. But check this out, right? This would be in your resort, right? And there's a picture of Mickey's Birthday-Land house. Now, do you guys notice anything different about this house?
It's all new.
Correct, Brian.
Where's the sidewalk? I don't see, it seems a little set back. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, a lot of listeners out there, yeah, the sidewalk's definitely not in. It looks like they've rolled out AstroTurf for that. So this was the first house. So what I want to make sure is that people understand that there were actually two Mickey houses in Mickey's Birthday-Land.
I totally missed the second house completely.
You never knew? Oh, okay. So we're going to...
I never knew of this mini house and this stuff, so I'm fascinated to hear where things are.
Yeah. So there's a lot of there. So the idea here was that at Mickey's house is where the surprise party was taking place. So it was an open air house, so all the rooms were open to the outside, and you could walk through and explore. So you would first come up his driveway, and his very bubbly, cartoonish car was there with the license plate Mick and Min.
That car was awesome, by the way.
The car was cool.
The car in the house to me were like the highlight of that.
Absolutely. They put time and money into this. It was very straight, not a cartoon-like looking house, but the interior... They took a lot of props and a lot of different things from probably antique stores and different things. There were a couple little cute designs. You would go through his bedroom and everything. In the kitchen, though, there was a reference to one of the Goofy cartoons where the oven had low, medium, hot, and volcano heat.
Yeah,
and it was a more cartoonish looking oven and stove, which was pretty thing.
And maybe this is a good time to break in and mention. So this is 1988. This is pre-Roger Rabbit. The concept of a Toontown does not exist yet. So they are working from a completely different place. And in fact, the furniture inside of this house, his bed in the bedroom, the chairs, these are human scaled chairs. They just went around and got furniture that seemed like period authentic for what they were going for.
Yeah.
But it was like literally a normal bed and normal chairs and normal couches and things. It just seemed to fit into the style.
Right. And they would do some things like make some fiberglass plates or books, or some things look a little cartoonish. So it was a mix of cartoonish, but not. It was kind of an interesting, but it worked.
And they had one of those retro globes, one of the 1971 globes or 1974 globes that we talk about, the world globes.
Yep. That was
that was on Mickey's desk.
I'm going to have to go back through the footage I sent you guys that my dad took of this, and we have to go through that. So your walk through the house was one way: living room, kitchen, bedroom, and it took you out into the backyard. And when you went into the backyard, there was Pluto's doghouse,
and nothing interactive in this. It was
that's true.
Just like you'd walk up to there was like a rope draped across the room so you couldn't walk in.
It's like going to a castle, like
Yeah.
you don't sit on the furniture. We have many tapestries.
It was very old school. It's like I remember there was one like fake TV with a round screen
Yes.
where it's literally just like a TV shoved into it. But like
Yep.
this was not like what you saw in Toontown with interactive stuff. It was literally you just were walking through this
Right.
pristine display of Mickey's house.
Now, we talked about the house and the car, and this is where the budget ended, pretty precisely here. Because we see Pluto's doghouse in the back. We also see his Mickey's clothesline, lawnmower, his lawn.
And his pants are hanging off of the clothesline.
Yes. Well,
Like
he's
these
got
red
hopefully
pants
he's
with
got
the white
multiple
buttons.
Yeah.
Got a couple pair.
Well, he's saving
That's
energy
right.
by hanging his laundry instead of putting it in the dryer.
But
Come on, Hal.
that's where we see Donald's boat. And I know a lot of people out there are going, wait a minute, Donald's boat was a water play thing. It was, it was in the second go around, but this was it was a cutout, but it was multiple depths of cutout so that you got the idea of depth. And it is, SS Daisy or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And there was the same thing for Minnie's house was the same way. And
Yeah, it was
Pluto's
kind of like
doghouse.
they were like 20 foot tall, maybe.
Yeah, somewhere
maybe.
in there.
It was very
And it was weird because you just went
looked
through
like something you would see at a small regional park, not so much Walt Disney World.
Does Donald strike you as the kind of guy that can afford a big boat? I mean, he's not Scrooge McDuck.
That's true.
He's got that short fuse,
Yeah.
But it was interesting because you just walked through a full-size Mickey house and then went through and just saw, Goofy lives in this small 20-foot piece of cardboard, It was interesting to see.
And at a point you realize, like, this is just a huge queue I'm sitting in.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Like, if this was filled with people, I would just be standing here looking at this.
Exactly. So everything was one way for a purpose. They would then usher you into one of three tents. And the first tent of Minnie's surprise party would just show Disney cartoons. And it was kind of it was a round tent, much like what is still there and has been rehabbed actually today. But there was just these big screens up in the corners, and you would stand there and wait before you got ushered into the largest of the tents, where Minnie's surprise party took place. Now, the premise of this is that you're in her kitchen in her house, and we would finally meet Mickey at some point. So Goofy, the entire Fab Five, Chip and Dale, the whole nine yard, they all come out, and they're all working with this individual girl who comes out, and they dance some songs, and they talk about how fantastic the party's going to be, and don't spoil the secret. And when
did she have a super generic name that could used for? Was it like Casey or something?
Later, well, we're going to talk about the other show where it was CJ, and I don't.
Oh, see, okay.
I didn't. I watched a couple of these, and I couldn't pick up on her name in them, but yeah. But what's interesting about this one is all the clips in the Minnie surprise party were all female. So I know we have somebody who worked that show that we want to talk to, and we're going to need to see if it indeed was one character throughout the entire run.
Yeah, I don't remember a male cast member in that role at all.
Right. So what happens here is that, they're going to bake a cake and things go wrong, and Donald comes in, and you got Goofy, and they're mixing flour, and again, they're dancing and doing all these high fives and running around. And I think it was about a 15-minute show or so. And then obviously the cake goes in the oven. Mickey comes in. They get everybody ready to be quiet. He comes in through the door, and they yell surprise, and some noises go off, and the cake explodes out of the oven because it was put on volcano heat or something. And the cake looks good. Brian, I sent you a picture of it. Is that our cake for our next event?
Well, it's in the running.
Okay,
let's say it's in the running.
Okay, fair enough.
Because we do have that Disneyland Paris 5th anniversary.
That's true.
Court jester cake, that Mardi Gras style cake that they did. They turned their castle into
That's
that.
right.
So.
That's right. So after this, you think the show's over. You were ushered out into another tent, and if you're looking up in the tent, they have these long banner streamers, kind of like what are in the land now, that kind of come down the ceiling from the top, and they've got disco balls and lights and different things. And then all of a sudden,
very festive,
very, very festive.
Streamers, disco balls,
well, everything.
Anything.
We got everything. Disco pants and haircuts.
Get it. Everything's a dollar store.
That's right. And then there's another stage where all the characters and the girl reappear and do an additional dance number about happy birthday for another 5 minutes, dancing on top of this massive cake stage, if you will. And then you proceed to usher out, and you can visit Mickey in his dressing room and visit the birthday boy to get your autographs and such like that.
The birthday boy.
That's right. Now, what's amazing is in the beginning, this show ran 44 times a day.
I believe it.
I mean,
that's a lot.
That is a lot. I mean, just think about that and the amount of, costuming. And I mean, there's no way one person could do a show and turn around and do another. They've got to be exhausted and extremely tired after.
Well, and to your point, Todd, I think the way it worked is they would do the show in the one, and then they'd move over to the secondary, and then you'd have a different person come in.
Exactly.
And while that show is going on, there's someone starting the show over again.
Yep.
And so they're constantly swapping out. Those positions in order to keep that growing.
Exactly. And that's kind of why they did this 3-room thing. So they could give you a longer presentation and get the capacity, per hour up. So, but that was not all that was in Mickey's Birthdayland. We talked about the train station, Mickey's house, and these 3 tents. And the idea of what this area was is they came up with the idea that it should be Duckburg, as we mentioned. Now, back in 1987, do you guys know what premiered in 1987?
DuckTales?
That's right. And Steve Hansen, we talked about, he was really not sure what to call this land, and he was a fan of Carl Barks' work on the Disney Ducks, so that's where they came up with the idea for Duckburg. Now, I didn't know this. I did some research on this, and that there's a backstory to Duckburg, too. So Cornelius Coote, he is the great-great-grandfather of Donald Duck, and apparently he scared off Spanish soldiers who were attacking Fort Duckburg by popping corn to fool them into thinking reinforcements had arrived and were firing off their guns.
Oh, man, those Spanish. They fall for that every time.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition either. So apparently he also... moved water into the area that allowed these corn crops to flourish, and that's why in Duckburg here, in Mickey's Birthdayland, he's holding an ear of corn and why it has a water fountain. I
understand they were like trying to figure out what to put there, and then it was one of the artists who were like, no, wait a minute, like they were trying to come up with a founder for Duckburg, and one of the artists who is familiar with the series are like, no, wait a minute, there actually is a guy. We don't have to invent someone. This exists. So again, like no research from WDI or anything of like, here's this rich thing. It was like literally, I was like, hey, I think I remember this thing from this comic book.
Yeah, right, exactly. Someone's flipping through a comic and said, oh, we should put that. So we're going to come back to Cornelius in a little bit. But the rest of the land was facades of buildings that covered some of the tents, the fronts. So you could tour Duckburg, if you will, in Duckburg by walking through it. But these were all short versions of facades. I mean, the doors were no more than 3 feet tall.
Yeah, there was nothing. None of this was taller than 7-8 feet, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, little kids. It was cute because these little kids felt like they were in a real town.
Right.
There was
there's tons of pictures that people have of like kids, sitting on the steps of the buildings and whatnot.
Exactly. Yeah. You couldn't, but it kind of hid the area a little bit, and the restrooms were over there. Now, there wasn't another addition. There was Grandma Duck's Farm, presented by, anybody remember who presented Grandma Duck's Farm? Brian's giving a blank look. Oh, how's looking at his map?
I don't know. I don't remember this.
It's presented by Friskies.
Friskies.
Oh, the cat food.
Yeah. So, now, JT, you must know who the star was at Grandma Duck's Farm.
Minnie Moo?
Minnie Moo, that's right. So Minnie Moo was born, she's a dairy cow, and she was born in Edgerton, Minnesota in 1984, and she didn't prove milk, so apparently she was going to be slaughtered.
Whoa.
Yes.
So, put up or shut up.
Exactly.
She was going to be at the Broilerator 7000 or whatever that thing was called.
So the legend goes is that the niece wrote to Disney saying perhaps they could use her, and they did purchase Minnie Moo for an undisclosed amount, moved her down to Florida. She was eventually relocated to Fort Wilderness, JT, when Grandma Duck's Petting Farm actually closed down, where people would still go see her there, and in 2001 she passed away at the age of 15. And they didn't make an official notice, but they are on record as saying that it was too sensitive a subject to discuss. So here's some neat stuff. So apparently there's a memorial plaque placed inside the trophy room at Fort Wilderness, along with other notable deceased animals. So
what's the trophy room back in the stables?
I don't know. So
where they have the big, the organ thing back there.
Yeah, I don't know. So we're gonna have to find this. Now here's another interesting thing. I didn't know there was such thing as Mickey Moo. It was another cow, and he was at Disneyland until 1993.
Huh.
So Mickey and Minnie Moo.
That probably started a rash of if anybody anywhere in the United States had some kind of animal that had like a Mickey shape on it, they were taking pictures and trying to sell it to Disney.
It's like Jesus Christ toast, or the Lady Madonna Play-Doh or something. Orlando Sentinel kind of had like an obituary written, and this is I'm quoting here verbatim. She was survived by 2 pigs and a potato, also in the shape of Mickey Mouse.
Oh my. Yeah, I think there is a little room now that I think about it when you go back in that stable.
Yeah,
you can still get dangerously close to the horses still, in my opinion, for Disney's taste this time of day, but this time of year or whatever. But yeah, there's a room back there with trophies and stuff, Brian, just in case you're on a tour walking around.
Todd, did you ever see it exist as a petting zoo?
Yes, I did, because I was there it was October 89, so just in its first year. And I do remember my sisters walking through. I mean, it was kind of as disappointing as it is when you went to Rafiki's Planet Watch. Like, I'm on this train, I go all these places, and all you have for me is a goat.
Because it's at some point they cut out the petting zoo part of it, and they just had the goats in a pen in the center, and you just stand and watch the goats.
Right. And part of the barn
I remember that part.
And part of the barn is still there today, which is being used for Mickey's Barnstormer, which is pretty cool. So. Yeah, and
Goofy's Barnstormer or Mickey's?
Goofy's, sorry.
Goofy's, yeah. And do you remember? So there were goats in the front, and then there were chickens in the back. You could walk inside the barn, and they all. I don't remember their names, but I know the chickens all had names. There
did they?
Little cards with their names on them.
And Minnie Moo, I believe, if I recall correctly, she was inside the barn.
Yeah, she was kind of off to one side, I think.
Yep.
People are spending like $60 a day
to go see a goat. Yeah.
To go see a goat.
Exactly.
And it was free right down the road at Fort Wilderness. Right. I mean, that shit didn't cost anything back then.
That's right.
They just
play. They just play.
For those of us that liked attractions, it seemed like something that you could get anywhere. Yeah. So I was just really surprised that but again, knowing now what the budget was
they did it again over at Animal Kingdom. That's why I just never understood why, you spent all that money. Yeah.
So
they didn't. No. Two rants here. They didn't originally have it at Animal Kingdom, but what happened was people would go out to that conservation station, walk through the building for 3 seconds, and see them working, performing an operation on a monkey, and they were bored. Yeah. That's why they added the petting zoo over there. They didn't originally have it.
So also at Birthdayland, there was a playground. They had mouser sizing and mouse maze, which was a topiary of shrubs and trees and different things.
And there were little squirting fountains in it. So if you went the wrong way, you'd get shot in the face with water.
I have video of my sister and I doing this.
Do you really?
Oh yeah, it's like it literally looks like PVC. Street level, 3-inch pipe coming out of the ground with caps, and there's little misters shooting up out of them. That's all it is. And yeah, there's just a standard playground. We're there in '91. That's the video I have.
Okay, all right. Well,
I did see a little teacup shaped thing on the playground, but it was very. They got their $12 million worth.
Yeah,
that's hedge maze. It's about up to my 3rd grade shoulder level. That's about as tall as it
You're right. Well, it was very tiny.
Let's talk about how well their $12 million were spent, because as we talked about, it was supposed to be temporary. But at that point, it was so popular that they decided to retheme the area and lose that whole birthday getup.
So the birthday's over. They're like, now what?
Yeah. Now what do we do? And just this is amazing too. So in April 22, 1990, the birthday officially ended, and a few weeks later, May 26, 4 weeks, Mickey's Starland was born.
Did you run across the picture where there's Launchpad McQuack holding up the sign that says star to cover up the sign that says birthday in front of the land Mickey's Storeland.
But I think if you put the star over birthday,
it doesn't fit.
No, it would be like Stardayland.
It's that same. Now I understand it's like that same Charlie Ridgway setup where we saw the photo of like the golf resort when it got turned into the Snow White resort, and there was like the dwarves with the sign, like they're covering up the sign with the new one. Same shtick. Same exact shtick.
Exactly. So some of the temporary buildings were changed, and the attractions and shows were changed as well. And Minnie's surprise party became Mickey's Magical TV World. So this was interesting. So Disney Afternoon was big. We'd also already talked about DuckTales, but then we had the Adventures of the Gummy Bears, right? We had Tailspin.
Gummy bears bouncing here and there and everywhere.
Rescue Rangers, right?
Bandales.
That's right. And Bonkers.
Bonkers was horrible.
Yeah, most people don't know that. So
wasn't that a candy?
It was a candy.
Like Razzle and Dorks. And
so
he looked like a marsupial or something, wasn't he? Like
no, that was another character, Marsupa.
Well, now we have to have a Bonkers meet and greet.
Yeah, Bonkers was a cat, like a police cat.
Police don't have cats; they have dogs.
But he was their attempt, kind of, to get a Roger Rabbit goofy character that they didn't own. That they did own, because they didn't have the IP officially of Roger Rabbit.
Right. I think that was the whole thing. They wanted a Roger Rabbit show, but they couldn't get Roger Rabbit. So then they're like, well, let's do that kind of character, but we'll just make him something different.
Exactly.
He's so crazy, he's bonkers.
As all of these different shows came, the show that we're talking about, changed, because it was Mickey's Magical TV World. So when Chip and Dale was the thing, that's what you'd go and see. But the theme was always the same: a live host with the unisex name of CJ. There it is, Hal. And also a rapping computer named Dude. Okay. Yes.
Come on.
Now, Dude. What does Dude stand for, guys?
Oh no.
Yeah. Does anybody want to guess?
Duck. Duck is
dodge,
duck
and
one of the
hide.
words?
No, duck's not in there.
Disney.
You got the first
Disney
one.
Urban.
Disney Urban, yeah. No.
Computer's
in there, even though it's Dude.
Oh, that's right, Dude.
Yeah. So
Dude.
It was officially Disney's unilateral digital electromagnetic computer. It's Dudek, but they would call him Dude. Now, guys, we have Dude with us tonight. Now, just as in the original show, on the count of 3, all 4 of us have to yell, "Hey, Dude, what's happening?" And that will bring Dude to life. Are you guys ready? All right.
Okay, I'm ready.
1, 2, 3. Hey, Dude, what's happening?
My name is Dude. I'm number 1. We're gonna have all kinds of fun. I'm the one who runs the show. I'm the master rapper, computer control. I brought you friends from near and far. You'll meet them now. Each one's a star. Everybody clap, clap, clap. Everybody clap, clap, clap.
So here you have Dude who would rap to you. There would be different songs and all sorts of dance parties, and that would go on for 15, 20 minutes. But another interesting thing about Starland here is that what episode or what television show do you guys think actually had some portions of it filmed in Mickey's Starland?
Thunder in Paradise?
Not quite. There wasn't a Duckburg scene.
Ironside?
No.
Mickey Mouse
It's one
Club?
of those shows where they always take an episode on ABC and go
Full
to Walt Disney.
House.
Full House. That's correct. If you want to look it up, it was season 6, episode 23, towards the end. It's in the first part of the 2-part cliffhanger where Michelle gets lost, and you can see some external shots of Starland, and it's the original Duckburg facades that were there. So
Now, is that the Full House where they scuba dive?
Yes, it is, and it's also where the father tries to propose throughout all 1 hour of this, can never propose, and then Michelle's lost. I zipped through it quickly trying to find this, and
Uncle
you can get
Jesse plays the piano at the Grand Floridian.
That's right. He's got a whole entourage with him. They play in front of the castle at the end. So here's one that most people don't realize. In Christmas 1995, Mickey's Starland was renamed Mickey's Toyland with some light theming. Just for that Christmas season.
Just for Christmas.
Exactly. So.
Oh, yeah. Hey, do you remember? So let me break in here. So if you remember when you came out of the I can't remember if it was like one of the pre-show things or when you're coming out of the show, there was that area where you were kind of waiting, where there was those comic book cutouts where you would go. But I remember they also had some of the Main Street windows displays just in like glass boxes on the outside.
Oh.
Like I remember a Fox and the Hound one.
Really?
It was very random. It was literally like they just went to the warehouse and like find some things and put them in here. And at some point they started to get fancy, and they had like some little interactive stuff where you could step on the floor, and I think it would set off different like sounds of like animals or like, and I remember there were some buttons that you could push that would make like little Mickey Mouse sounds.
Right. That's cool. Well, you got to throw something in there. I mean, as we talked about Starland, and all we've done is changed some signs. Grandma's Petting Zoo is still there. We don't have an attraction other than a show.
Did they get rid of the hedge maze and replace that with something else?
I don't think that was done actually until the next incarnation.
Right.
So we're through 3 names now, and it's been 7 years. And here's what's really, I thought this was interesting. It was still extremely popular, even though there really wasn't an attraction there. So Disneyland decided, hey, this is big. Let's recreate it. But they decided to go with the word Toontown because, that's where Toons were in California, and Roger Rabbit has been out that by that point, and they could incorporate Roger Rabbit into Toontown.
Oh, and they made that whole backstory about how it was always there,
exactly,
behind the scenes, that no one ever saw it.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've created Toontown in 1993. Here it is, 95, 96. What are you going to do with this? You can't call it Toontown. So that they decide that
because you would actually have to spend money.
Exactly. But they decided that it would be where the characters vacation, and they would put a fair theme on it. See, I never understood the fair thing, and now actually, when you do research all these years later, you're like,
it was kind of barely obvious.
Yeah. So they decided to coincide it with Walt Disney World's 25th anniversary, and it was officially rededicated on June 29th, 1996. And also, apparently, the reason that they were all taking this big vacation is because it was time for the fair. Mickey was one of the judges, so he had to travel out here. So Cornelius Coote, we talked about him earlier, and the reason that he was kept in there, he was apparently the founder of the Toontown Fair because his corn crop story of all that stuff fit in with the fair, and making prize produce. So we're going to talk about a second here. There, some of the fair stuff did continue on in the theming, but they refurbished the tents again, probably pulling all the structure down, or at least the vinyl covering. Minnie got an actual house. They tore down Mickey's house and built a second one. These were more cartoonish, if you will, and they were obviously meant to stay a much longer time and more in the Toontown theme, but Toontown Fair. Donald got his real boat. That was the play structure with all the water and squirting. And Pete set up a shop of a gas station, which is where the restrooms were. And on there, this is pretty cool. This is a neat little thing. The oil that he sold was Mojave oil. And where have we seen Mojave oil before?
Catastrophe Canyon.
That's it. And Mojave oil was on there. So
one of my favorite things when they finalize the land for permanent is the gas pumps that have the goldfish inside of it. And they still have them in Disneyland at the Toontown out there. So I always make a point of visiting and getting my picture with it, until they might possibly now take that away to add the Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway ride to Toontown and Disneyland. But for now, they're still there, and I still get to visit them.
Goofy was the one that really... He won out here. He got, not only did he get a farm, he got the Barnstormer and the roller coaster, and he's got a backstory too, which I didn't even pick on. Apparently, he's not good growing crops, and he has squashed them with his feet. So I guess in the queue area, you would see that he had stepped on them.
I kind of remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and his scarecrow, instead of scaring things, actually attracted. So he has tried to dust his crops, but he crashed, and now he's offering flight training in order to get you on board to do it for him. So that was there, and that was the first real attraction, which is still there today.
It has the world's longest name. It's like Goofy Sky School, starting the Great Goofini or something
that's
like
it. The
that.
great,
Yes,
so the Great Goofini. So
long, complicated.
Exactly.
I have actually a story about the origin of Goofy's Barnstormer.
Oh, okay.
So one day, I don't know, it was probably, I don't know if this was right when Toad was going to close or when 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea was closing, but I was walking through the Magic Kingdom, as I was apt to do because I was going every other weekend. And one day this guy stopped me, sort of like in front of Toad and 20K, and he starts talking to me, and he's like, "Oh, I see you here all the time. What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I want to be an Imagineer." And we start talking back and forth about, what we want to do and what I want to do. And then he tells me, like, "Oh, I have this thing that I submitted to the I Have an Idea program. I've taken the farm from Grandma Duck's farm and then taken a roller coaster and putting through it, and it would be Goofy's Barnstormer." And I'm listening to him go off on this thing. And I thought to myself, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. And here we are years later, and he's probably still an Imagineer. They built his Barnstormer, and I'm just a guy on a podcast. So who was the dumb one?
That's funny.
So if anybody happens to know who he is and where he might be today, dude, I owe you a beer. I am so sorry. I looked down on you that day because you were right.
That's right. There you go. Oh man. Well, here's an interesting tidbit about the petting zoo. When it closed, the barn was repurposed, and also too there were still some chickens in there. But do you know where the chickens? Hal's nodding his head. He must know where these chickens came from.
Oh, you're talking about the electric chickens.
The electric chicken.
I did read that they were removed from World of Motion. Is that?
That is correct. That's where they were.
So they later became the opening act for Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem. The electric.
Did you say later?
Oh God.
That one goes out to Marty. And Brian, you'll like this. Around the holidays, Donald's boat would become a Christmas tree lot, which was kind of neat.
Absolutely, I've got pictures of Donald's Christmas tree lot, which they also used to have in Center Street.
Oh, was it?
I want to say there was a period of time where they set it up in Center Street. I'll have to look at my pictures. For some reason, that is sticking out to me, but I could be wrong. But I feel like I'm not.
So as we know, we talked about the petting zoo closed, and obviously with Storybook Circus, which has now been almost 8 years since they began that. Isn't that amazing? It still looks wonderful to this day. The train station there is obviously completely demolished. They built a new one. That I always thought the interesting thing about Storybook Circus was I was watching some of the construction, and I always thought that those tents would be torn down. And when I saw them just back to skeleton and putting new tarps on it, I really wondered the longevity of Storybook Circus.
Are they really still using the same?
They seem to be, yeah. I mean, maybe we can have somebody confirm, but there were still those metal. So they've served their purpose, obviously.
Jeez,
I mean, well, the Millennium Village is still there. That's 20 years now, practically,
That was a temporary building too, yeah.
Exactly, and it's still up. So these temporaries certainly have outlasted their intended use, albeit refurbished a number of times. But I think the theming there now obviously fits in a lot better. It's known as a real land. It's certainly expanded out. It's a Dumbo I think was a smart move, and we should mention too. Moving Dumbo over there, as we all know, shortened the Tomorrowland Speedway, but the creation of Mickey's Birthdayland also shortened the Speedway before that, back in 1988, which, as we've talked about many times, I think we're now going on the 5th or 6th change, right? When Tron goes in, it's just, you're basically going to get a car and go in a circle and come back. So hopefully something will be done to and make it a little more enticing in the future. But I remember going to Birthdayland. I remember riding the train. My sister's watching the show over and over again, as I probably went to some other attraction. But it was a fun place. Temporary, but still, obviously, as you can see, it had a direct influence on what happened at Disneyland and also what happened later on here with the whole backstory and bringing in Storybook Circus.
Man, longest 16-month celebration land ever.
That's right. We're still celebrating. He's now almost 62, but we'll continue to go on. So, all right, guys. Well, I think it's about time we wrap it up for this evening. I know how we laughed about...
When the birthday's done, don't you unwrap things?
Oh. Well, we got 2 of them tonight. Nah, 2 doozies.
I think there's more than 2 in here.
Yeah, that might be quite a few. Well, we've got how we talked about a couple of the different T-shirt ideas. So I think I'm sure you got something in store for us coming up soon.
Well, so after we rolled out the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society, immediately we got a couple of tweets of like, where are the T-shirts with the logo on it? So as soon as we wrap up here, I'm going to put that artwork together and get it for Todd so that we can get that uploaded. And let's start there and work our way out. But yeah, it's getting to be November. There are going to be a lot of sales coming up. Well, actually, yes. You're listening to this on November 18th. So we're in the middle right now of a T Public sale, with things being up to 30% off. So get your shopping done now for December. It's a great time to do it. And get in there. We'll have some surprises for sure by the time this comes out.
Excellent.
You know, it would be cool without Donald to have the Donald's Christmas Tree Lot banner and a bunch of Christmas trees underneath of it for Christmas. And that we can sell because we could mean any Donald.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And then how you can make another one too, celebrating my birthday for 18 months.
I think I would impart upon all the listeners, if you're going to have a birthday, don't celebrate your birthday for one day. No. Celebrate it for at least 18 months.
Invite all your friends, explode a cake, have a train.
It's what Mickey would want.
That's right. And with that, well, we wish Mickey a very happy birthday today, November 18th, 2018. He is indeed 90. I know many of you are enjoying the celebration of Mickey Mouse at the Contemporary Resort at D23. So I hope you had a great time there. We thank everybody for listening. Again, if you can, give us a review or shout out on iTunes. You can donate to the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society, right from the Retro WW page, or right from lbvhs.org. And until then, happy birthday, Mickey. And Brian, take us out.
He's here. Now, remember, when I turn the lights on, everybody gets
Follow the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society on Twitter and Instagram at LBV History and on the web at lbvhistory.org. Follow Todd McCartney and Retro WDW on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Retro WDW. For all things Retro Disney World, including exclusive merchandise, visit us on the web at retrowdw.com. On Twitter, follow our web designer, Jason Bartell of Deepwater Studios at JasonDWS. Our announcer, Andre Gardner, at Andre Gardner. And follow our hosts, Hal Bowers, on Twitter and Instagram, at GoAwayGreen, and on the web at kingdomofmemories.com. For JT Kuzier on Twitter, at LS1JT, on YouTube at Rubber City Motoring, and on the web at rubbercitymotoring.com. And you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, at Brian P. Miles. Retro Disney World is the monthly podcast of the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society, a nonprofit, nonpartisan, tax-exempt 501c3 organization, and is not affiliated in any way with the Walt Disney Corporation or any of its subsidiary or affiliated entities. Sayonara.